Welcome everyone to the Woo and You, how alternative thinking can help support your healing journey. I'm here with Mandi Rose, and I'm super excited because today we're going to be talking about a topic that I think a lot of people don't know about or misunderstand or maybe have some fears around. And so I'm really excited to kind of talk about our worldviews surrounding it, our perspective about it, and how maybe we can utilize them to support our healing journey. So welcome, Mandi.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. This is like one of my favorite topics. I've been diving in for like over a year and I just love nerding out about it.
I'm very excited. Really quickly, because while I'm talking, I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. Do you have some headphones?
Yes, me throw them in.
That'd be perfect. So while you're doing that, I'll introduce myself. My name is Kylene Terhune. I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. And I work with women one-on-one for chronic and complex gut health issues. And we do this through personalized functional lab testing, nutrition work, lifestyle, and, getting a little bit more into the woo. So we go whole world, whole life. And last year I was diagnosed with cancer in February of 2019, and then went through treatment during the summer of 2019 and got into remission. And I used a whole life approach there as well. I used conventional treatment. I used integrative care. I used energy work. I did it all. So that's a little bit about me. Are you set up there? Can you hear me?
I think you should be able to hear me better. Hold on.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so I'm going to let Mandi introduce herself, give just a little short snippet about who you are, and then a little bit about your healing journey.
Yeah, so my name is Mandi Rose. I'm a holistic health coach, a personal trainer, and I'm also a licensed cosmetologist. So my motto is I make people beautiful on the inside and out. And just like a lot of people in the holistic space, we have kind of all gotten here because of our own health journey and helping heal ourselves and heal the people around us. And so for me, I started with homeopathic medicine when I was 18 years old. I grew up in Europe, so very familiar with alternative medicine. And then I started getting diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder at 23. So it started with Hashimoto's, and then it turned into hormone issues after getting off of birth control for 10 years of birth control.
That'll do some damage.
And then it all led to the gut. So I had celiac. So after about 7 years of medication and trying everything to, balance everything, I decided to go more a holistic approach. So at 30, I went on a really clean diet, did a lot of detoxing, parasite cleansing, and all that. So I reversed both autoimmune disorders within 14 months, which was really exciting, been off medication. And then, like I say, our body kind of heals in layers, and it will only kind of take you to the point that you can handle. And so once I got healthy on the surface, then all the deeper rooted issues started coming up. So metal toxicity, mold toxicity, things that have probably been chronic for years and years and years. And my immune system was trying to fight for a long time.
And then it kind of had the ability to communicate at that point.
Yep, exactly. And so then my body just crashed. And in those moments is when I had to pick up the pieces from the ground up. And in that process, I had tried everything from nutrition to homeopathics to herbs. I mean, everything you could think of that was like tangible. And it wasn't until those things were helping but not pushing me over the edge that I looked into more energy medicine. And that was kind of the missing puzzle piece for me because I think for most people, it's obvious if I eat an apple, it's going to be healthy for me. If I have like this echinacea or zinc or, different herb, it's going to help me. But energy we don't see. And when you're really sick, you're kind of desperate. And that's when our mind, I think, starts to open and expand to anything that'll work, right? You're like, if it'll help me, I'll do it. And so in those moments is when I kind of started reaching into energy medicine, and it was life-changing. So I love teaching and practicing it with other people.
Okay, so you said something there about expansion. I kind of wanted to touch on that because I think it's such a fascinating concept that I experienced when I was going through chemotherapy. So I have a theory, and I don't know if it'll ever be proven, but I have this theory that the more you get physically disconnected from your body because of treatments or toxicity or whatever. Essentially your life force is dying.
Mm-hmm.
Is sort of, I guess, how to explain it. And with chemotherapy, it's truly like low blood counts, like you're going, you don't have enough of what you would consider life force in medical terminology, right? When you start getting disconnected from that, it's almost like you're able to get away from your physical shackles, I guess, for lack of a better term. And it's almost, all of a sudden, at least this was my experience, all of a sudden I was able to feel very much more spiritually connected and aware. And it was the weirdest thing, because on one hand, I was like, I know that physically for my body, like this is not a healthy state. But spiritually and emotionally, I kind of liked it because I felt more connected to my faith and what I believed in a different way than I had experienced in the past. So it was like this enlightening kind of, it was weird.
You are giving me goosebumps right now, because like when you said, being on chemo, like your life force is dying, I think that is something that a lot of people fear, is the chemo and like how it's going to make them feel. So I love that you kind of brought up that, you do become a little disconnected, and all you have to rely on is your faith and kind of tuning into your inner intuition and your higher self. And it's in the lowest moments of our healing that we kind of, like you said, expand and be like, what else can I grasp onto? Because my body feels like it's failing.
Yeah.
But there's more to me than just my body. And
it was like achieving the goal that everybody that meditates wants to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
That's how it felt. I was like, oh, I've been enlightened.
And you'll never be the same again.
I know. Well, it's true. And I was talking to somebody yesterday on a different interview. And it's truly, you have so much time to think when you're faced with literal life and death situations, and you start reprioritizing and you start reconnecting. You're like, what is important? And so what I wanted to do when I got well, like completely changed. And I started enacting some of that, and it's just really, really cool. But anyways, this isn't about the chemo, but I just thought that was interesting, because the physical and the spiritual, we tend to separate them so frequently, but we are mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual beings all wrapped up into one physical body. And it's like, there's so much more than just this body that we happen to live in.
Yeah. And I just love that you bring it up, because I think most people that are going to be tuning into this are at a point in their healing where they have done all the things, right? Like they've tried the nutrition, they've went to their doctor, they've tried medication, they've done all the things. And more than likely they're coming to a point in their life where they're like, what's the missing puzzle piece? Like, what is that one piece? And so I think most people watching this, you guys understand us. Like, you've been in the low where we've been.
And I would say I'm coming to think more and more that I don't like addressing things just from one perspective. I think it's so crucially important to do all of it, to do all of it, and usually do all of it somewhere around the same time, just so that you have the best results and the most long-term results. And I did that during my integrative care. I was using chemo, I was using supplements, and I did some energy work as well. And it's so incredibly supportive. So let's talk about energy. And specifically, I want to address, because a lot of people that follow me would connect with me because of my faith. And so they may be seeing that I'm posting something called the Woo and You and do something like my dad, where he said the other day to my mom, he's like, is she going off the deep end a little bit here? So he literally said, my mom came over and told me that, and I just had to laugh, because I had given him this like harmonizer thing, and I said, stick this under your pillow, and he's like, is she just jumping off the deep end? So I get it, and I was raised in a very conservative Christian home, and I'm still a Christian, and this is I want to share my worldview perspective about this, and that is that I really believe that God has given us everything in nature that we need to heal. I'm not saying that means that we don't use conventional medicine sometimes, but when we find through technology or through traditions or through whatever resource we have that there are these natural things that can support us, I think that as Christians, we should glom onto that and not demonize it. I think there's a lot of fear around it, like, oh, you're worshiping the earth, or, whatever it is. And there's this weird sort of like, we can't get involved in things that would be considered alternative, or things that are considered a little bit out there or whatever. And I think that's the opposite. I think God created the earth. We came from the same elements of the earth. We were literally made from dust. There is this energy and this communication, because if you go back, if you want to be sciencey about it, we are all created from light and frequency and energy. Everything that you touch, that you breathe, that you eat has this light and has this frequency. So some is better for you, and some, like that, pretty much, if you want to get blunt about it, stuff that man makes is lower frequency, stuff that God makes is high frequency and healing, right? And so I feel like we should be way more accepting and interested in this concept, and just utilize it a little bit more in the Christian community. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. So I totally get the fear surrounding it. But I think that usually fear comes from a misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with that. For me, especially, like, I grew up in a very Christian household as well. And I still very much believe in God and a higher power. And, you know, a lot of people think, oh, she's using these crystals and these oils, and, you know, very, misunderstood. And for me, it's very similar. You know, I believe that we are all made of energy. There's energy around us. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You know, just like God, we have faith and trust in a higher power, and we can also believe that energy is around us all the time. And you can
I don't think tapping into those demeans your faith at all. Like, oh, if you use something like this, you're not trusting in God to heal you. I think it's like that whole story of, like, you know, God's not going to help you if you get healthy if you're like sitting on the couch eating Doritos. Like, you have to like take the tools that he gives you, you know?
Yes.
So,
And even in the Bible, you know, they talk about different crystals and stones that were precious and did healing properties, you know, frankincense and myrrh, these oils that were, you know, helping people enlighten and connect to God. And, you know, there's a lot in the Bible.
Man, that would be like a whole thing, like the frankincense and myrrh. Yeah, because that is super cool. And there are so many like health benefits to the, I mean, it's just crazy. Yeah, that's like a whole hour right there. That's so cool. I've been diffusing thieves and frankincense almost nightly at night.
Yeah.
So energy, literally, like, we're created from light, we're created from energy down at the molecular cellular level. We depend on these forms of communication. And if you ever walk into a room, you can't deny that you vibe off of people, right? Like, they don't even have to say a word, and you're able to kind of tell if you like somebody or not. Like, and there is this energy frequency that our bodies produce, and it's a way that we communicate to each other, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, but really, really cool if you can tap into it. And that kind of what you were alluding to earlier, when you get sick, you kind of like learn, if you are open to it and start thinking about it a little bit more, you learn then how to follow your intuition and listen to your gut. And I just want to like go on that for just a second, because I feel like part of what makes us sick sometimes mentally and emotionally, which then impacts us physically, is when we shove our intuition and ignore our gut feelings, and we force ourselves to do things that we think in our brain is okay, but our body is telling us is not okay.
100%.
Yeah.
I spent years people pleasing, saying yes, and not following my own true intuition. And when I got really sick is when I knew that this can't go on any longer. You know, if I feel weird about something, I need to trust that. And like you said, reading the energy of other people, you know, if it feels like bad news, it probably is bad news.
and then just being bold enough to start cutting those ties. And that was something, even during treatment, I had to cut a tie, and it feels so horrible and dramatic and awkward at the time. And as soon as it's done, you're so freed and you feel so much better. And it's just, yeah, tapping into that is just a new level of interesting. So there's all sorts of different ways that you can incorporate energy. So maybe name a few, like off the top of your head, what are forms of energy medicine?
So some of the forms of energy medicine I love are grounding. That's very basic. And before I even list them, this is what I want to tell everyone listening. When you're going on a healing journey, it's expensive. Between the medications, the healthy food, the organic, the doctor's appointments. I mean, I could literally list a million things that cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Energy medicine is almost always free.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about that. These are
So
almost all super low or free.
But they are so beneficial.
Yeah.
So if you're someone who's sitting on your couch and you're like, I don't have the money to do all this stuff,
yeah.
Listen in, because these things you can start incorporating right now today, and you will start feeling better if you really make it part of your ritual and your daily routine. Yeah. So number one, grounding. Go outside, put your feet on the earth. Grounding can be done in so many ways, and it's just simple. I love Reiki. It's hard, Reiki is expensive if you get it done by a practitioner, but you can also do Reiki on yourself. And I use a lot of YouTube meditations to do Reiki on myself.
Okay, I have to tell you something just because I tried this the other day. I've never been trained. I've never studied it. I just know that, like we just talked about, you can communicate with energy, right? So we're fostering a cat. And my dog is like freaking out the first day, right? She's freaking out. She's terrified of the cat, I think, because the cat's new and the cat's the same size as her. And so I was like, I don't know what made me think about it, but she was sitting on my lap and I was trying to get her to just be chill with the cat. I was trying to get her to be near it without shaking like crazy. So she happened to be sitting on my lap and I was like, I don't know, I'm just going to try this. I put my hands on her. I closed my eyes and I was thinking like white light and relax. That's what I was thinking with her. I'm telling you, almost every single time that she stopped shaking. Would you believe it?
I do believe it.
Yeah.
100%.
So then you think about spiritually laying on of hands and healing and okay. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So, Reiki, something I'll do is, for instance, like go on YouTube and I'll just type in like guided meditation for healing or guided meditation for sleep or whatever. And a lot of these videos will walk you through almost like a Reiki meditation of, think of your feet, think of your knees, like where are you feeling pain, and like imagine a white, bright light shining through these pained areas. So that's kind of simple things that you can do in like a moment, I love using crystals. Crystals all have energy and frequency. So I'll sometimes lay them on different parts of my body, and I can talk more about that later. Essential oils, they are energy medicine. It's like the energy from the plant in a very potentized form. So I love doing that. I think what else?
Acupuncture for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically based on the whole concept of moving chi, which is the energy in the unseen energy in your body. I would argue that the reason food and essential oils work is because it's the same thing.
Yep.
It's changing the energy. I mean, there's so many different layers to it. Obviously, if you want to get into the science, there's all the anti-inflammatory reactions in the immune system and the vitamins and the minerals. But I mean, if you just want to keep it super simple, it's a positive energy and a positive frequency and positive information that you're putting in your body. So I think that, and even water, if you go with like natural spring water, it'd be the same kind of thing.
Yep. And I love how you brought up acupuncture. So a lot of people can't afford acupuncture, but acupressure is almost always the same. So I've gotten like this crystal. I wish I had it to show, but it's like a wand, and it's got like a point at the end. So I have like a rose quartz one for like love. I have one that's amethyst, which is more like spiritual healing. And so you use it kind of like a wand, like a pressure point, like a trigger point therapy. And you can like put it, on our hands and our feet at reflexology points, and kind of stimulate the energy in your body in certain points with like a crystal wand.
That's really cool.
If you can't afford to go to an acupuncturist, you can easily look up Pinterest or charts or something and kind of just, it's our body. We're going to respond in a way that it's supposed to. You can't really hurt yourself, And
there's acupressure mats too, I believe, that you can lay on. They look super uncomfortable, but I kind of want one.
No, they have it's called the biomat, and there's ones that are filled with amethyst. And so you lay on it, and then like the amethyst stone will help kind of bring in another level of frequency too to help.
Yes. And I guess if we want to get technical about it, prayer would be energy medicine as well.
Absolutely.
So, and thinking about being a Christian, having the Holy Spirit within you, what higher frequency and light and energy do you have access to than that? I mean, you can't really beat that.
Nope. It's the ultimate.
So that would be that would get lumped in there as well. And I think the only caveat I would say spiritually is that if you're going to work with a practitioner, because this is something that exists for everyone. I mean, it's just like how we're created and what exists in the world. So I think if you would be working with a practitioner, you'd want to know what their worldview is and make sure that you get along with them in a
Align.
yeah, that you align with them in a good way. Because what you don't want is to be, you know, working with somebody that believes things that are like totally against what you believe, because that that's not going to be helpful.
No, it's like mismatched energy.
Yeah, that would be very bad. So I think that would be the one caveat. But yeah, like you're saying, a lot of this is super affordable or free, or things that you can even do on your own. So today we're specifically going to talk, Mandy's going to talk about crystals. I don't really know anything about crystals at all. I know very little. Actually, I got some for Keegan for Christmas. There were 3 in a bag, and they were calming stones, and it came with a little thing that said, you know, what they were good for. It came with a little affirmation. That's about the extent of my knowledge. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about grounding and how you can incorporate that. So take it away with crystal talk, Mandy.
Okay. So obviously with crystals, I could go on for hours and hours. So I just want to bring kind of more like the practicality and how you can actually use them in your daily routine and keep it really simple. So essentially when I try to explain crystals to people, most people are like, oh, they're just like a rock or a gemstone. It's a pretty stone. It looks beautiful. Well, guess what? That alone is energy healing. So if you have this beautiful rose quartz and it just looks beautiful, and you put it on your bedside stand and you wake up every morning and you look at this stone and it makes you feel good, that's positive energy. That's positive mood. It makes you feel good. So if that's all you use your crystals for, is just to look at them and feel better, you're raising your vibration by just being happy and looking at something beautiful.
Oh yeah. So, and that's so well documented that your thoughts impact your physiology.
Exactly. So if it's just as simple as that, if you walk into a crystal store and you see this stone and you're like, it's beautiful, I don't know what it is or what it does, it's enough. That is enough, right? We don't need to overcomplicate it. But if you are nerdy and sciencey and you want to get more into like the technicality of it, every crystal comes from the earth and it has different forms of minerals and components. And all of these, like you said earlier, they all have different kind of like components of sulfur and calcium and fluoride, and then they create this beautiful stone. And so each one does have its own vibration. And so then we have to look at, how does it match the vibration of the human body? You know, is it a higher frequency than the human cell? Is it, you know, what part of the body? So for instance, if we look at our chakra system, which is going to be way more in depth, I'm just going to use like the heart chakra, for example. A lot of people are familiar with the heart chakra. I always say, like, think about like when you have like a broken heart. It's just like you feel like this tight, like chesty pain. Like everyone can relate to that feeling. It just feels closed and it's like stagnant energy. Everything is stuck right here. And that's when your heart chakra is off balance. So how do we open up our heart chakra and kind of release that energy? And so crystals can do that. So rose quartz, because it's pink, relates to the heart chakra, which is pink. So now we're looking at color therapy, which color is energy.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole other, you want to get into color. That's science too. So I just kind of want to bring it back to people if they're like, oh, this is so woo. No, I mean, there really is a lot of science behind this.
Right. You know, I think back in science class, when you're in science class back in what, 3rd or 4th grade, and you look at the color spectrum, right? Or the energy spectrum. So like there's a spectrum, and then you have like infrared light, UV light, you've got your microwaves and all these things that we can't see, but we know exist. And then you have your color spectrum, right? And then you have sound spectrum. All of them are energy in some form.
Yeah.
So with crystals, you have the color, and then you also have like the actual physical component. So for instance, back to the heart chakra, I love using rose quartz, and I will literally just hold it in my hand when I'm feeling kind of like heartbroken, or sometimes even the opposite. An underactive heart chakra is when you're like heartbroken and you just kind of feel like, ugh. An overactive heart chakra is when you're a people pleaser and you're just giving and giving and overpouring your love, and you start getting depleted because your heart chakra is so overactive. So rose quartz will balance both of those things. It will kind of ground you back into yourself and self-love and taking care of yourself, filling your own cup up. So for instance, practicality, I want to kind of keep bringing it back to how can I actually use this in my everyday. So for instance, when I was going through my divorce and I would have to go sit with my divorce lawyer, I always held a piece of rose quartz in my hand. And I think she thought I was crazy. But it always reminded me, no matter what we were talking about and how devastating and how heartbroken I felt, I had that piece of rose quartz to just ground me and remind myself I'm doing all of this out of self-love, and that I am coming from a space of love, even though I don't love him right now. And something as simple as that. So that's a good one. And then, for instance, like there are stones that are grounding stones. So they come from the earth, and they come from like a deep part of the earth. So they have a lot of earth frequency in them. So black stones, for instance, are very grounding. So if you see a black stone, black tourmaline, black onyx, hematite, those are the most grounding stones that you can purchase. I love hematite because it's magnetic. So if you ever see these stones at the crystal store that are magnetic and they stick together, they are the only stone that is naturally magnetic. Absolutely amazing for grounding. And when I feel very flighty, so you imagine being grounded means you're very like calm, you feel strong, you feel secure, you feel safe and protected. But when you don't feel those things, you feel like airy and flighty and you're all like up here and anxious and like world is just spinning in circles. I will grab a black stone and literally put it like right kind of like on my pelvis and just lay down and just set it right there. And then ground myself and just think like I'm like a tree and I'm sinking into the earth and I have these roots that are holding me strong and keeping me safe. So black stones are amazing for that. And then when you look on the other side of the spectrum, when you want to go more like spiritual expansion, kind of opening up your mind and for prayer, I love any white clear stone. Kind of like God, you know, we always talk in the Bible about the white light and bright light and healing light. So anything white, so selenite is one of my favorites, rose or clear quartz, anything that's like a white stone. And I'll just hold them in my hand. Sometimes when I pray, I hold on to my selenite wand and I just feel very like energetic. You know, you kind of just have like this ability to tap into more of like your subconscious and being your authentic self. So I love crystals that do that. Sometimes you can even use crystals for like your pets and stuff. I've seen people like do that, you know, when your pets are sleeping, you can kind of like lay like a grounding stone if they're very anxious. So like during fireworks and stuff, I know people that their animals get very anxious during like fireworks and chaotic party stuff. So even just like taking like a little like collar and like putting like a little stone on it. I know it sounds so silly, but like
I think you just came up with $1 million idea for all the alternative practitioners out there that have pets. You're gonna
steal it.
It'll be the personalized crystal collars for your
pet collars. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you have to totally like edit all that out so no one takes the idea.
The anti-anxiety pet collar, the calm down and stop being so snazzy.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the easiest things that you can do is, you know, just Pinterest even has like so many information about different crystals and stuff like that. But for someone just starting, it's good enough to go into a store, find one that you love and just look at it. You know, I wear my crystals as like a protector, as a necklace. I've put them in my bra before. I've put rose quartz in my bra. I mean, you can put it in your pocket. It's just a matter of like holding it in a reminder, you know, too, that is part of energy medicine as well.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's multiple different ways that they might be beneficial. One, visually, like you said, they're very attractive, so it stimulates positive thoughts. And two, maybe they have some frequencies that actually physiologically impact your body. And then three, they might just be triggers for you to remember to do beneficial things. Like this one is for meditation, or, you know, this one is to lay down and help myself calm, or, you know, whatever. And so it might just, for some people, even just stimulate a positive habit.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Yeah, so beneficial on multiple. I like that. That's really cool. And the ones that we got Keegan, I'll hear him like, there's 3 of them, and I'll hear him like just playing with them in his hand.
I love it.
It's really cool. Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's really, I think that's really helpful in terms of just keeping it really simple, explaining how they work, and really, really easy ways that people can incorporate them into their life. Mm-hmm. So I've really gotten into earthing, or some people call it grounding. And one of the reasons, so I'd heard about it and I thought it was beneficial and I knew that it existed, but I hadn't really practiced it a lot. And so I had gone to California for a conference and I came back to the East Coast and I was like 3 days home. And normally I can get right back on. And for whatever reason, I couldn't get back onto Eastern Standard Time. I posted something about it and my friend reached out and said, hey, you need to do some grounding today. And so I was like, oh yeah, good idea. So I did it for like maybe 20, 30 minutes that day during a couple walks. And literally that night I was back on Eastern Standard Time. And I was like, okay, there's really more to this than I had originally been thinking. And I need to look into it more. I need to practice it more. And so grounding is really the most basic form of it is when people will talk about going barefoot outside and connecting to the earth. And there's such a range of benefits from lowering inflammation to resetting your circadian rhythm, to lowering your blood pressure, and to lessening pain that people may experience from chronic illnesses. And so I was like, okay, but I'm really like one of those annoying people that wants to know like the science behind it. Like, how does this work? Like, why? A part of me on the spiritual level, I'm like, yeah, totally, because God created the earth. We've gotten disconnected from the earth. We're made from the earth. Like, it just makes sense. But, you know, I posted something about grounding one day, and someone on Facebook just really started posting all these skeptic articles. And I was like, what the heck, dude? Like, you want to argue about the benefits of like being outside. Like, you're crazy anyways. But like, there's no reason to argue about that. But I was like, all right, fine. So I started looking up PubMed studies about it and replying with those. Cause I was like, if I'm going to reply to this, I'm going to reply with science. And guess what? There's a lot of science behind this. So one of the books I requested for Christmas was called Earthing, The Most Important Health Discovery Ever by Clint Ober. And I've been reading it and I'm super fascinated by it. So I'm just going to read a couple segments that are really short, but help explain like physiologically how this works and how it impacts your body. So he actually had a history in being a like cable TV guy. So he came at it from this concept of electricity and having to ground wires and like that sort of background in his mind. And that's sort of like how this all came to be. Okay, so this is a quote from the book. It says, electrical engineers know that the surface of the earth is pulsating with free electrons. Medical scientists didn't know that, but they did know that the body is electrical in nature and that free radical molecules attract electrons and snatch them from other molecules, a process that is at the core of inflammation, tissue destruction, and disease. Clint theorized that if earthing reduces pain, it must come from reducing or neutralizing the free radicals causing the pain during the inflammatory process. The free electrons must be putting out the fire. And then he says, just like the earth, your body is mostly water and minerals. Both are good conductors of electrons. And that's what makes you and the earth electrically conductive. Yeah, I know. It's super cool. Reconnecting to the earth doesn't cure you of any disease or condition. What it does is reunite you with the natural electrical signals from the earth that govern all organisms dwelling upon it. It restores your body's natural internal electrical stability and rhythms, which in turn promote normal functioning of body systems, including the cardiovascular, respiratory, digestive, and immune systems.
Yes, and that totally aligns with crystals, because you're not going to walk around with a handful of dirt. You'd rather walk around with this beautiful crystal that comes from the earth. Like, that makes total sense.
Yeah, so couple ways that people can get grounded. You can do that. You can maybe get a more of a grounding stone, carry it in your pocket, especially if you're somebody that, you know, works in an office situation where you're not able to get outside a lot. Maybe you live in an area like me and you don't get warm enough weather year round. And so bringing things internally or into the house in your pocket that can help you with this, that can be supportive. So the basic form, like I said, is to go outside with your bare feet, connect to the ground. I'd say the minimum amount of time that you would want to aim for would be 10 minutes. Anything longer than that is going to give you much more benefit. Another way that you could do this, especially if you want to go any place other than your backyard, would be to get grounding sandals. And so one of the things that's really disconnected us from the earth is our shoes, because they're made of rubber and we have those rubber soles and just the plastic and different materials. Those kind of block the connection there and that transfer of electrons. So if you get some grounding shoes or sandals so that you can go out in public and, you know, walk around and not be looked at as a total weirdo, they're going to have like leather soles, which if you think about it, that's what we wore, you know, probably up until maybe 100 years ago, I would think. So that is a way that you can still wear shoes, but still get grounded when you do go outside. But a couple other ways that you can do it too. You can actually, there are companies like earthing.com that create things that allow you to bring it indoors. So following his concepts of wires being grounded for cable and different things like that, he created grounding blankets. So it started actually with I think it was duct tape. So like that metallic duct tape that he put on top of people's beds. Then he put an alligator clip to it, and then he put it, attached it to a grounding rod that was put outside. That's how it started. And he started doing all these experiments, and he started doing it with himself and his friends. And all of a sudden he was on like sleeping pills, and he started experimenting with this. And he's like, I fell asleep like while I was doing the experiment, and I woke up and I had the best sleep of my life. And I never had to take a sleeping pill again. And he's like, this happened night after night. He's like, well, I got to see if this, and this is with metallic duct tape, just like bringing, yeah. And so it's very like crude experiment, right? So he started doing this with like all his friends too. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, I'm like going off my pain medications. I'm sleeping better, like whatever it was, all these different things. And so then he started getting more into trying to get scientific backing and scientific research. And obviously he doesn't sell metallic duct tape. He's created throw blankets. So my husband actually got me one for Christmas. It's really awesome. It's a blanket that has silver threading in it. And so what you do is you connect it to a grounded outlet. And what I've been doing with it is laying it on my bed. And as long as you have some bare skin touching it, you're getting grounded while you sleep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. On my wrist is it's called a wrist a harmonizer. And inside of that has a bunch of different minerals. And I got that from Greenfield Naturals. And I just thought, oh, I'll experiment with it, because we were kind of looking into his structured water systems for our new house, which we ended up getting. And I was like, this is like a super cheap way to kind of dip my toes into the concept, right? And I'm telling you, and this is the weirdest, oh my gosh, it's so weird. I had this shoulder, this elbow, shoulder, scapula dysfunction going on. I had tweaked something, and they're all connected. So it kind of started going up the chain, and it was painful. And I had to really tweak what I was doing in the gym and be really, really careful. And I did massage, I did chiropractic, I did all these different things. I'm not even kidding. Since I slapped that thing on, I put it on that side. It was on my right side. I put it on my right wrist. Since I've been wearing that, all of that dissipated.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts?
That's so crazy.
It's nuts.
Amazing.
I know.
So simple.
I know. So we're super excited. So structured water may be another consideration for basically internal grounding. So not only are you going to get better hydration, but it's going to help you help your body function on a higher level. And if that's what you are mainly hydrating yourself with, that's only going to help your body work better. So that would be the equivalent basically of drinking spring water, which almost nobody, unless you live in very specific areas, has access to anymore.
Yep.
But I mean, that can be tremendously healing. So we're really excited. We're having a whole home structured water system put into our new house.
Oh,
so Mandi, we're going to literally be bathing in this stuff. Like I can't. Isn't that
coming
cool?
Over.
I know.
I
know. It's going to be so, so cool. So that's another option for people. If you want to experiment with structured water, or I guess what this company calls ionized water, would be a brand called Wata. It's WATT-AHH. Like,
Wata.
Yeah. So I listened to a podcast with this guy, and I don't know if you're familiar with structured water or Wata or anything.
Yep. Very healing.
Yeah. So it's so weird. You listen to these podcasts and you're like, no way, water, like structured water. What? Like
whatever.
Yeah. And right. And it's so expensive and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, do I even want to try this? So I listened to this podcast. It was fascinating to me. And basically the guy was like, I noticed that when we would have a lightning storm, that the grass would like sprout up overnight. He's like, what the heck? Why is that happening? And so we started thinking about it. Anyways, really long story short, figured out what this electric reaction is that's going on, and wanted to mimic that in the water that we drink. And so they did, and I am not even kidding. Like, I'm telling you, all my personal anecdotal stories are so off the wall weird.
I could have so many too. It's great.
I tried this Wata, and they tell you, like, don't start by drinking like a full liter, just start slow. Well, I drank too much the first time. Yeah. And I was like, no way. It was like giving me almost like a detox reaction. I didn't feel good. And I was like, what? No. Seriously? But I mean, after chemo, what don't I have to detox? So I started being really slow about it to see if I could build myself up and see if I would eventually get a positive effect. And so now I can drink like a whole bottle and it's no problem. But that was just like the craziest thing for me. Then Keegan had a sore inside his mouth, like in his gum or tissue area. And get this, and we have remineralized reverse osmosis water. Okay. That water, which is considered, almost gold standard, right?
Yeah.
Stung that part, that sore that he had when he would drink water. Patrick didn't say anything about it. He just gave him water to try. And Keegan took a sip and he's like, oh my gosh, this water doesn't sting my sore. And then, not even kidding, we just pumped him full of that and it all of a sudden started healing and went away. Because he was like, this is never going to go away. And it blah, blah, blah. He was really whining and complaining about it and it was causing him a lot of pain. He started just chugging this water over the next couple of days and it went away.
That's amazing. So I wonder how similar it is to, have you ever heard of Cell Food? It's like a dropper and it has the same thing. It like remineralizes water. So when I was going through my healing journey, my doctor would have me do, I think it says 7 drops is like the normal. Oh no, I took 2 and I literally felt like I was hallucinating. I was detoxing so bad off of 2 drops and like a full thing of water. So you can look into that too. I got it on Amazon. It's called Cell Food and it like
Cell Food.
Yeah. And it like same thing. It ionizes our cells and pretty much shakes out all the bad things out of the cell. So,
okay. Yeah. Really quickly, if you have a minute, I want to talk about that really fast.
Yep.
Do you follow Zesty Ginger on Instagram? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So they were talking recently, and this came up yesterday in the other interview that I was doing. When you up level, like you were mentioning with your health, you improved your health and then all of a sudden you got sick again. Well, if you up level with your health or you up level mentally, emotionally, spiritually, then there can be this physical cleansing effect down at the cellular level. Like you just said, like the cells are clearing out old debris. Literally. Yep. Yes. And it can make you feel sick.
Yep.
And so there are times where maybe you go to a conference and you feel amazing. And then afterwards you get a little sick and you're thinking, oh, it's because I stayed up too late or whatever. And maybe there's a little bit of that there. But sometimes it can be this like emotional cleansing thing that's happening with your body, which is like, I heard that the other day and my mind just like, exploded.
My energy practitioner always explains it like we heal in a spiral. So like you're going to heal the top layer, the obvious symptoms, right? Whether it's like fatigue or bloating or whatever, you heal those symptoms. And now your body feels better. It's leveled up. And now we can do deeper work. It's kind of like when you go to the gym, you start with 5-pound weights. So once you get to 5, you can handle 10. And once you can handle 10, you can handle 20. Our bodies do the same thing, but like with healing. So it's like your body's not just going to all of a sudden dump a bunch of heavy metals into your bloodstream when you have a bunch of inflammation because you're bloated, because you're eating Oreos. So once we start kind of clear.
I love that you specifically said Oreos. That used to be my thing.
It's everyone's thing until it's no longer your thing.
Yeah, that's too funny.
So on a cellular level. And I wanted to kind of go back to how you were saying about the lightning storm. This is a fun fact I tell everyone. Have you ever heard of ozone therapy? Like people do like ozone IVs.
Yeah.
So ozone therapy comes from O3. It's oxygen with an added molecule, right? When lightning hits the ground, it creates O3 in our environment and it clears and purges the air of all these like bad free radical cells. So open your windows. If there's a lightning storm, after it's done, open all your windows and it will totally clear your house out of like toxins, mold, like spores, anything.
Oh, that's so smart. It's the exact opposite of what we want to do, right? Because we're like, oh, we're going to get water. So throw some towels down, dry off your windowsills, open up all your windows.
Yes.
Oh, that's so smart. Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating. And I think that just reiterates there are so many different ways that you can incorporate these things from so many different angles, but the foundational concept is the same. And that is that nature brings healing and that there is this connection that we have that we need to embrace and figure out what works for us, what we can incorporate into our lives, and what we can make habits, really.
Absolutely. Love that.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much, Mandi. I think this is really encouraging and informative. Can you let people know where they can follow you? If you have anything that's coming up that people can participate, anything that you want people to know to kind of wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram. My personal page is mandyrose.1111. I just kind of share and talk my stories about my journey, my holistic healing. And then also you can find me at holistic.soul.sisters. Holistic Soul Sisters is a company that I started with my girlfriend, Dr. Ashley Kay. She's a chiropractor. We do coaching, from nutritional coaching to life coaching. And she even does a little bit of like homeopathy and stuff like that. But we really like to focus kind of on the spiritual connection of women. And so we do holistic soul sister retreats. We have merchandise, like beautiful shirts that we made. Like my favorite right now is a sweatshirt that's called, it says Moon Made Me Do It. But we like to focus on, like you said, the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, all of those things. So follow our page. We always post different information, and we go into astrology and chakras and crystals and essential oils and all the woo. But she is a chiropractor, so we do talk a lot about nutritional therapy, the human body, the physiology of the body and stuff as well. So it's not just the woo, it's also the real science stuff that people are familiar with conventionally. So yeah, follow me. We have a YouTube channel, Holistic Soul Sisters. I have a podcast called Wheatgrass and Champaign. I just share kind of the balance. That is my main motto in life, is we all have to have balance, right? We can sit here all day and eat all the good foods and meditate and whatever, but it's life, and we have to enjoy it and embrace it for all.
And your body is designed to handle some of that.
It absolutely can. So wheatgrass, then champagne. That's my lifestyle.
I love it. So that's your podcast, Wheatgrass and Champaign. Make sure you go listen to that. There's a lot of great episodes there. And for those of you who may be listening to this that don't know me, you can follow me on Instagram at Kylene Terhune FTN. And on Facebook, Kylene Griffith Terhune, or you can just go to my Facebook page, which is #nutrition that works for you. And I have a really exciting announcement, and depending on when you're listening to this, you might actually be the first to know. I've only sort of hinted at it on social media, but I am dropping an online group course called Get Gutsy. It's going to be a 6 weeks course. I'm so pumped about it because this is the first course I've really created myself 100% from the ground up. It's basically brain dumping everything that I want to tell my clients I work with one-on-one in a package where whether you work with me one-on-one or you can't do that right now, you're going to get all of this amazing information about your gut, about your nutrition, about how to go grocery shopping, all the way up to talking about grounding and how you can incorporate that and why it's important for your health journey. So
wow.
I know, I'm so excited. I can't even wait.
Sounds amazing.
So pumped. Yeah. I started creating it and typing out the content, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like amazing.
Yeah. Like a lot of value.
It is. It's going to be super great. I can't wait to offer it to people and help them kind of kickstart their journey. So thank you, Mandi. I just always love talking to you. So I appreciate it so much. And
yes, thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye, guys.